Morning. Have a very small crew this morning. Dan, it's all you right now. Well, wait a second. A couple people will probably coming in. I just realized I don't know if anything promotional was sent out this week about Agent Power Huddle. So it might just be us today.
I don't remember getting anything. I had to kind of dig for the link, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think any promotional material was posted this week, so our bad. So Dan, this is all about you right now, since it is just you. I have a couple other people here that are not on camera. So um, and then the other two people, they're my people. So we're here. They're my people.
Okay.
So I had an idea of like something to talk about today, but I was actually going to change my mind at the last minute and just ask the audience, is there anything in particular that, like a burning question that we can dive into today?
Well, I mean, it's cool to talk about storytelling. I agree that that is a very important component
Right?
of establishing rapport, um, unique value proposition, anything that we can do to power that up in the current times is always great too.
Okay. Storytelling. Storytelling. I got plenty of content about storytelling because that is my bread and butter. That
Yeah.
is, storytelling is the one thing, if you want to know a trick, storytelling is the one thing that will stand the test of time on social media. So, regardless of any trending audio, any algorithm changes, anything, storytelling is always, always, always going to trend.
Okay.
So if you can learn to be a better storyteller in everything that you do, you are never going to have a problem, A, attracting business, B, converting business, and C, getting that business to come back to you time and time and time again. So I do have today, I'll give you three tips about storytelling that I think hopefully you can take with you. And some of you have heard some of these tips before, some of you have not. And so if you have, cool, reminder, refresher, we all love a good refresher, right? And if you
Yep.
have not, then it's going to be brand new for you. So the first thing I want you to think about storytelling is you only need 6 to 8 stories. That's it. You don't
Okay.
need you don't need more than that. But your stories should be about different pillars of your life and of your business. So I have about 5 pillars that I like to have stories share, that I like to tell stories in.
Okay.
The first one is in client stories. And when I say this, like we as real estate agents, we like to think about like just listed, just sold. But the reality is like, and I've said this before, and I'll say it till I die, every single one of us does the exact same thing.
Hmm.
There's nothing different about any of us except the way we tell a story and the way we treat our clients, right? And the only way that other people, the only way you as a consumer can see how I treat my clients is in how the stories I tell.
Yeah.
I could sit here all day every day and I could tell you that I have clients signing lists. Like if I'm talking about my coaching business, I could sit here all day every day and tell you I've got clients that are signing listing agreements left and right. We're picking up deals, we're closing business, blah, 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 blah. Cool. That's what every coach does, right?
Hmm.
Every coach helps you get more business. That's literally the job description, right? It's just like a real estate agent. Literally, the job description is to help people buy and sell homes. So the more stories you have around how you do it, the more people are going to want to raise their hand and say, hey, I want to work with you. So client stories are number one.
Okay.
The second type of story you always want to have in your story bank is a brand story. Does
Okay.
anybody know what I mean about a brand story? What does that mean?
Something unique about your brand, about your company, your maybe the way that we do things that are different from everybody else.
Yeah. Brand is like, in real estate, our brand is ourself, right? We are our own brand.
Yeah.
So you can kind of look at it as kind of like a personal story. How did you get into real estate? Why are you in real estate? Why do you stay in real estate? Right? But beyond that, like who are you as a human being?
The most important sale you have to make is yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. Dan's got this. I love it. I love it. Yes, that's exactly. So like the more you can tell stories about yourself and about who you are, the more people are going to connect with you. And I'm going to give you an example right now. So I'm going to say this on here because I know if Tyler's listening, he's going to actually make this happen. He's so good at this. Tyler, I need a spreadsheet of the content examples that I share all the time because I always have to go find them because I don't have them in one stop. So anyway, that's going to happen that'll happen. So next time I have to share content, it'll be ready for you. Okay. So, let me find this story here that I want to share with you. Some of you have seen this before, some of you haven't. But this is a really good example of a brand story. And I'm going to show it to you. And the reason I want to show it to you is because there's two things. First of all, I told the same story twice. I've told the exact same story twice. And each time I get different results. So this is a really good example of a brand story. So remember, what you want to know, what people want to know from a brand story is who are you as a human, first and foremost, if you're in this for relationships. If you're in this for transactions, they don't really care about who you are. Okay. They care more about they care more about your results, right? But if you're telling your stories right, it all becomes one. All right. So let me share this with you. So here's an example of a brand story, a very high performing brand story. So it is a photo of me at a bookstore. Okay. First of all, the visual element is super important. So when you're telling a story, you need to have a very visual element to it. How many of you know that I love to read? Hopefully, like, oh, all of you raise your hand. Okay, I am a reader. I actually had someone message me the other day and ask, "Are you a reader?" I'm like, okay, I need to tell more stories about being a reader. Okay, cool. But anyway, so it's a story. The picture is of me in front of a bookstore. So there's a big piece of branding right there, right? So we know from the picture, even if you don't read the content, you can assume that A, I like to read because I'm at a bookstore. And you might also be curious, what is this blind dates 3 for $10? What is this all about? Right. So there's a little bit of fun to it as well, right? So some branding. It's like a little bit more of my personality because I literally do this. I go around and I like to take pictures of books and I like to go to bookstores. Okay. But it's also a little bit of like just approachability in the photo. So you want to think about that when you're telling your stories. There's always got to be a visual element that matches what you're trying to convey. So here is the story. The story is I'm a mixed race woman. I grew up in two separate households with two different cultures. My parents were on opposite ends of the religious spectrum. From a young age, I learned how to adapt. Okay, so there's a little bit of a branding right here, right? What is really important as a real estate agent? You have to be adaptable. You have to be. Okay. As a child, I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. I was too far apart from my peers. I struggled to find a sense of belonging. But over time, I learned to embrace my differences and see them as a strength. Another piece of branding, right? Because when I'm sharing that, what am I telling you? Mostly that I can get along with anybody, that I connect with so many different people. Okay. And I see differences in people as a big strength, which is about who I am as a human being. Anyone who works with me knows this. I see the good in most everything in most people. Okay. I went to 4 different high schools. Okay. There's a lot of movement happening. Being a teenager is hard. Add that to learning a new environment, new culture, new teachers, and rules every single year. So there's a lot of branding going on right here. Now, what you want to see is how does this actually relate to what I do? Why am I telling you this? If you're going to share a brand story, you've got to bring it back to why am I telling you this? Why am I doing this? Well, I'm telling you this because all this has taught me is that if I wanted to succeed, I had to adapt. I learned that the key to success was being able to adjust to the changes around me. So I developed a skill set and I was able to make friends and learn from different perspectives. I've been given some valuable lessons about adaptability, diversity, and acceptance growing up. These experiences have helped my business in so many ways. Here's what I'm going to tell you. This is why you should like me or hate me. One of the two. I don't care. Pick it. Take it and run, whatever you want to do. But I'm flexible in problem solving because real estate transactions can be complex. More often than not, they need creative solutions to very unexpected challenges. I'm able to think on my feet and come up with a plan of action. Okay, so can you see why the brand story is a really important story to have? You learn a lot about me as a human, but you're also learning about how my life, right? Because some of us, if we're new in real estate, we like to have the excuse of no one wants to work with me because I've never had any clients before, and we let that get in our head. Or I don't have a lot of business, so why don't people want to work with me?
Hmm.
I hear it all the time. So, like, the reality is, I do have business, and that is not my story. But if that is your story, this is how you overcome that, right? I'm able to work with a diverse range of clients. Okay, my clients from all walks of life with different needs and preferences, different everything. I understand and relate to their perspective, which helps my clients trust me.
Hmm.
Okay. And I respond to market changes fast. The real estate market is changing all the time. I know how to keep up with it and adjust my strategies and tactics to suit the current market conditions, continuous learning, et cetera, improve communication. And I guess that's part of why I love what I do so much. I handle unexpected situations. I work well with a diverse range of people. I adapt to market changes and I'm always improving myself. These are all essential traits for a successful real estate experience.
Hmm.
So this is why a brand story is important. Not only the client story, we understand the client story. I'll give you an example of that when I search through here in a second. But this is one story, and I've told this multiple times. The first time I got 79 engagements, 15 comments. Second time I told it, I changed the words a little bit. I changed the photo. 167 engagements and 55 comments. Exact same story. Those of you who commented on the second time and the first time probably had no idea you were commenting on it both times. And if you did, you probably didn't care. So this is why you only need 6 to 8 stories, and you can tell that story time and time again. And I'm going to tell you what, I want you to watch for it because I posted this on August 20th, and the first time I posted it was February 2023. So it's literally a timeless story over and over and over again, but
Yep.
I'm only changing a couple of things about it. The visual element, because the visual element is super important. And I'm changing the way I tell it. Like this is a little bit more of a bullet pointed story, whereas this is more of a longer story.
Okay.
Okay. So brand stories. So first stories you always want to have in your story bank are client stories, always. And let me think of some examples as I go through here. I'll get back to it. Just remind me if I don't, okay?
Okay.
Second is brand stories. So I just showed you an example of a brand story. Okay. You must have brand stories. Those of you who are uncomfortable about sharing anything about your personal life, I want to tell you, if you want business from social media, you have to get over that. That's that simple. That simple. If you want people to trust you on social media, you must tell stories about yourself. That is the age of that we are in. So in the beginning of this call, I started out by saying, if you want social media to work for you, any algorithm, doesn't matter what Meta does, the thing that works best 100% of the time is storytelling. And because we are in a relationship-based business, you have to get used to telling stories about yourself. Bottom line. That's it. And if you're uncomfortable with that, then maybe social media is not the place you should be trying to get business. So anyway, next story that you always want to have is what I call a value story. Who knows what a value story is?
Is that your value proposition?
Yeah, it's more like it's the value that you give to other people. So a value story would be like seller tips,
Okay.
buyer tips, right? But told in the form of a story. Told in the form of a story. So I'm going to pull up an example for you here. This is why I need a spreadsheet with everything because I got to dig for a second. Give me one moment here. Go to Instagram because I know which one I'm trying to pull up for you. So a value story. Hold on. Hold, please. This is a value story. Very simple. The options I gave were 20, 10, 3. How much payment do you need to buy a house? Value. You're answering a question, right? You're answering a question. Value story. Super easy. Okay. We need to go into that anymore. So one way to figure out what kind of value you want is understand what your ideal client's looking for, first and foremost. If you don't know what your ideal client's looking for, ask them. Pick up the phone and call them and ask them. Okay. First thing. That's the very first place you find value. I would highly recommend if you are trying to actually convert business from social media and get more engagement and a higher propensity to actually make social media work for you. And even for like Google Business, YouTube, any other sort of marketing platform, I would highly recommend that you don't, people might hate me for this, you do not go to ChatGPT or Gemini and say, tell me 25 value-based topics that I can tell right now about real estate. That is the last thing you do. Does anyone have any idea why? Anna does. I know she does.
Well, one
Because
reason,
it won't talk to your ideal client. It will be too generic.
Everybody searches the same thing,
Exactly. Everybody wants the same thing.
and that is not my client. Want to attract somebody who you want to attract is the key.
Yep.
What speaks to my avatar?
Yep. 100%. So if you're going to actually want content that's going to resonate with your audience and you want to find more people like the people you already know, like, and trust, or know, like, and trust you, same thing, right? Because I assume that the clients you want to work with, you know them, you like them, you trust them, and it's a reciprocated feeling. So if you want to work with more of those people, you need to find out what their problem is, not the general population problem. Yeah, I have a lot of strategies for growing. If you're trying to grow your audience on social media, right? You can be there's general content. I took a tangent, of course, sorry. I took a social media class at the beginning of 2024, and it was a very expensive class, okay? Waste of my money. The only time I'm going to tell you I ever took a class and it wasted my money. Lots of my money. Total waste. Because it spent the entire 8 weeks or 16 weeks, 4 months of the year, the first 4 months of the year, spent on trying to create generalized content, all to go viral. Okay. That's why I'm telling you this is a waste. Take it from me. Don't spend the money I spent. Okay. Don't waste your time like I did. Okay. Yes, I learned a lot about how to consume content, how to be like, I learned a lot of those sort of things, but for what the method or what I was trying to learn or what I wanted from it, no. But what is tried and true is going to work every single time, is what has worked for me since I started in real estate. And it's working for me as I'm building my coaching business. It's the exact same thing. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what the trends are going to do. It doesn't matter what meta updates they change, the algorithm changes they make. It doesn't matter. What's going to work for you every time is when you provide value for a specific problem to your exact ideal client. And I mean specific. If you don't know how to find a specific problem for your exact ideal client, well, then that's a totally different issue. That's not this call today. Okay. But you need to solve a very specific problem and you need to speak to that specific problem. And that's the only thing you should speak to. I had a call with someone yesterday. We were talking about all these ways, all these things that she wants to do in her business before the end of January. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, holy cow. Girl, I'm a mover and a shaker, but I'm overwhelmed with this. What's your problem that you're trying to solve? Okay, what is the problem? And that's the value that you provide. So when you're telling value-based stories, like my example of 0 down loans, the reason why that was important is because my 3 clients that I had worked with at that exact moment, they were all needing 0 down loans or interested in 0 down loans. So why is that important to me? Of course, it's right there, right? My clients told me exactly what their problem was. And I was able to answer that specific question. So value stories are the third type of story that you need 100% of the time on your social media channels. The fourth type of story that you need is what I call promotional content. Who has an idea what promotional content is? Anybody?
I'm gonna guess it would be promoting an event you're doing, or promoting a home you have for sale, or promoting a buyer guide or seller guide or something.
100%.
Something
Yep.
specific, a product.
Yep.
Something.
Joyce got it. That is 100% what promotional content is.
Okay.
Now, the purpose of promotional content, and this is why you want to use it strategically, right? You don't want to only put out promotional content, because if you're only doing promotional content, like, they don't trust you. So it's just not going to work for you. So if you're only putting out just listed, just sold, open house, all of that stuff, if that's the only thing you're ever putting out and there's no story behind it, there's no nothing behind it, then what happened is you're just going to waste your time on social media and you're getting stuck in this social media rut. That's where a lot of people are on social media. But the other thing about promotional content is that, or promotional stories too, is that your promotional stories are going to be used in so many different ways. Because a promotional story is like this. So many different ways. Hold on, let me find one here. Again, see all these links. That's why I need all these links. Okay, this is a promotional story. This is all about what can you buy in Tacoma, Washington for under $900,000? What can you buy? There's a story, right? It's not, I just sold this house. This is a buyer house. There's nothing on here. It's like just sold. But the story is, what can you buy for under 900,000 in Tacoma, Washington? And the story is like, look, you can buy water views. I answered the question right here. Water views. You can buy water views in Tacoma for under $900,000. Absolutely. It's updated. It's fully loaded. And there's so much more to it. It's walkable. I mean, whatever you want. This is an awesome, awesome house. I'm like, why did I buy this one? It was beautiful. But anyway, that's your promotional content, right? So this is the type of content that this is where you want to like promote your business and you want to promote what you do, but you want to do it very strategically. Like you don't want to only put out this kind of content. Because if you only put out promotional stories, then like I said, people don't care because you do the same thing as everyone else does. But the way you use promotional stories in other types of marketing is if you have an e-newsletter, right? How many of you have an e-newsletter that you send out to your database?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do.
You have 4 of us on this call. Okay, so I'm going to challenge all of you in 2025. That should be something that you implement. There's a whole reason. I can go into many reasons why I like e-newsletters versus a drip campaign. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and purpose for each of them.
Yeah.
But I think we tend to use drip campaigns instead of e-newsletters in real estate. And then it creates this overwhelm of like all these emails we have to update.
Mm-hmm.
But when you create an e-newsletter, there's no overwhelm. You're staying in touch with people regularly and la la la. Okay, so promotional content that you do is you share that in your e-newsletters. Right? You share promotional content even in your consultations. How do you promote yourself in concert? Do you share promotional content in consultations? You share it just like this. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I just put a house on the market. It's right down the street from you. We listed it at X amount of dollars. Here's all the things that they had to do. Promotional. You're promoting your other listing, plus you're sharing. It's a kind of a combined story, right? You're promoting your other listing, plus you're sharing a case study client story, and you're using that story to tell your client why they need to listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then the 5th type of story that you need is it's very similar to value, but it's a little bit deeper into problem, agitate, solution. So what's their problem exactly? And you got to agitate the problem. So what I mean by that is, look, your house is too freaking small. Too small. Okay, that's a problem. I'm going to agitate the problem because when you go into the kitchen, you bump elbows with your partner and you guys can't even stand looking at each other right now because you literally have no space away from each other. Agitating the problem. Get that? Make sense?
Yep.
And then the solution. Well, the solution is I have a simple 5-step process. It's called the DREAM method, and it's going to change your life. Problem, agitate, solution. So those are the stories you need to have. Each story is going to serve a different purpose, like I said. And you only need to have these are the only stories you need in your story bank. That's it. Nothing else. So I just gave you your content plan for 2024, 2025. Okay. All I need is 5 stories and tell them different ways. So to recap the types of stories, it might not be in the same order I shared them. I don't remember, but value, brand stories, problem, agitate, solution, case studies, and promotions. Case study stories are going to be the most versatile stories that you're going to use in most of your consultations, by the way. You're going to use this in your email campaigns. You're going to use this in your newsletters. You're going to use it on social media. You're going to use it in consultations. Case study stories are how I close deals every single day. Do you understand a case study? Do you know what a case study is? A case study is saying, I have a client, when she started working with me, she literally had 0 self-confidence. 0. And that's a very common story. And it's actually a really common story with buyers and sellers too, right? I have a client, a seller right now, and their biggest concern is that they've got to be able to make $1 on their sale. $1. That's it. The market's tough. And even though it seems like you might be able to make $1, it's not always that easy to just make a single dollar on your sale because there's so many other things go into it, right? So the case study story is what we've done is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. And we put together a plan for them that is going to ensure that regardless of what the market says, we're going to be able to get them exactly what they need. We're going to be able to get their problem solved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you one more tip before I head off here. So here's what you want to think about when you're thinking about how you tell a story, okay? Because there's always the types of stories, but the how is the hardest part. Who here watches movies
Yeah, not a lot.
or TV or reads books? Okay. So those of you who don't watch movies, okay, you probably watch TV or you listen to podcasts or you listen to a song or you read books, okay? I'm going to tell you the secret to music writing, playwriting, script writing, story writing. It is the same thing every single place you go. Just pay attention. There are 4 parts to every single story. It is the context. So watch your favorite movie. Think about it. The context. Where does the story begin? Where does the story begin? The challenge. Okay. Where are we at right now? Okay. Where did the story begin? Where are we at right now? The response. How are we going to respond to this story? So in your business, in real estate business, this looks like the context is my sellers were downsizing and they needed to sell. That's the context, right? They lived in the house for 40 years, raised their family there and everything. The challenge is it was time to sell and they wanted to sell as is. They understood that they hadn't done anything on their house in 40 years. And the house is already a 120-year-old house in Seattle, which means that there is moist ground. Therefore, the foundation has probably started to shift a little bit. And there's been no work on the house in the last 40 years. So context, 40 years, challenge. We want to sell as is, and we want to make the most amount of money, understanding that we are not the best house on the block. It's a challenge, right? The response, cool. We're going to try it. We have 2 different ways. We have 2 different ways that we can approach this. We can try to sell it as is, or we can put a little bit of sweat equity into the house and get you more money than you ever thought possible. Okay. So context, challenge, response. And then the end, what happens? What happens after all of that?
The outcome, the result.
Yeah,
Yep, the result.
the result.
The context, challenge, response, and result. So you want to know that every single story you tell, you've got to think about that. Now, yes, in my coaching, I teach you the exact method and how to do this every single time. Absolutely. I go super deep into it. You have a step-by-step checklist. I have a whole training module on it. I think it's like a 6-lesson module. Plus we talk about it in group coaching, private coaching, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So yes, I do talk about that in my coaching. But very simply, when you read a story, you have to think about, does it flow correctly? Have you ever read a really bad book? God, I read one the other day. What was it called? I can't even remember. It was horrible. I had to put it down. I tried 50 pages of trying to get into this book, but it was horrible. Like, no character development, no idea of where I was actually starting, none at all. So if you're just going straight, if your stories just try to end with just the result and you haven't done a good enough job of developing the story, it's not going to hit right. So that's what I want you to think about when it comes to the power of storytelling. Your stories will carry you through every single market, every single trend, every single algorithm change. Your stories will carry you through life. I gave you an example earlier of a brand story that I've told probably 20 times. I've told this story 20 times. I tell it all the time. I tell it in all my listing presentations. Why should you hire me? Because I'm adaptable. You know why? Because not only can I prove it to you in all of these case studies, but in my life, right? Because I'm flexible, because I'm communicative, because guess what? It doesn't matter what we think or how we believe or how we live our life. We are on the same page and we're on the same wavelength, and we're going to make sure that you and I are matched 100% of the time. Because why? That's who I am as a human being. Okay. Joy just put an example. If you want a really clear example of these 4 steps, watch a Hallmark holiday movie. Yeah, or Netflix. Like they all do a great job. Context, challenge, response, and result. If you can think about that as your way to like read a story, there you go. So those are your 5 stories. Okay. So next week is my last week teaching this. I won't be doing this after next week. So next week is going to be a Q&A. So please come prepared with your questions. If you have any ideas of something specific you want me to talk about, please let me know. But after that, your stuff from me will be in my real estate group. If you are not part of my Real Talk group, please be a part of that. Or if you want to, hopefully Tyler or Andy has the link to my 15-minute call. If you'd like a 15-minute call, you can book one real quick and we can connect and see if there's any way or anything that I can help you with. So that's all I got for you, everybody.
Thanks, Lynea. Appreciate
Have
it.
a great week.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.